Welcome to Tech and Trek, where we explore the past, powered by the future. Are you intrigued by the mysteries of the skies? It was a flight shrouded in mystery, a journey that ended in silence. Air France Flight 447, a sleek Airbus A330, vanished into the night, leaving behind a trail of questions and a world in shock. On June 1, 2009, the flight carrying 228 souls embarked on what should have been a routine journey from Rio de Janeiro to Paris. How could a modern airliner equipped with sophisticated technology and piloted by experienced aviators simply vanish without a trace? Flight 447 embarked on its journey from Rio de Janeiro's Galeão International Airport, carrying a diverse group of passengers and crew members. Captain Marc Dubois, a veteran pilot with over 11,000 hours of flight time, was at the helm. As the aircraft ascended into the night sky above Brazil, there was little to suggest the harrowing events that lay ahead. The flight path of Air France 447 took it over a vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean, a region known as the Intertropical Convergence Zone. As Flight 447 ventured deeper into the Intertropical Convergence Zone, the weather conditions began to deteriorate. However, as the minutes ticked by, a series of events would unfold, pushing the limits of both man and machine. The disappearance of Air France Flight 447 presented investigators with an unprecedented challenge: locating the wreckage in one of the most remote and unforgiving environments on Earth. Search and rescue teams from several countries mobilized their resources and expertise. Ships equipped with sonar technology scoured the ocean floor, while aircraft scanned the surface for any sign of debris. However, days turned into weeks, and the search yielded no significant findings. As time passed, hope of finding the wreckage, let alone survivors, began to dwindle. Crucial to any air crash investigation are the aircraft's flight data recorders and cockpit voice recorder, commonly known as the black boxes. In the case of Flight 447, locating the black boxes was paramount to understanding what went wrong. Specialized underwater vehicles capable of operating at extreme depths were deployed to locate the black boxes. The search for the black boxes became a race against time, as each passing day diminished the chances of retrieving the crucial data they contained. In the absence of the wreckage and the black boxes, investigators faced the daunting task of piecing together the events of Flight 447's final moments using limited data. The aircraft's automated messages, transmitted via the Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System, ACARS, provided some clues, indicating a series of system failures and inconsistencies in airspeed readings. The investigation team meticulously analyzed the available data, searching for patterns and anomalies. The investigation into the disappearance of Air France Flight 447 was conducted under intense public scrutiny and media attention. The families of the passengers and crew, grappling with their loss, demanded accountability and sought closure. The pressure to provide answers weighed heavily on the investigators, who were acutely aware of the human cost of the tragedy. The findings of the investigation would have far-reaching implications for the aviation industry, prompting changes and improvements aimed at preventing similar tragedies. As Air France Flight 447 cruised through the night sky, the ominous presence of the Intertropical Convergence Zone, or ITCZ, loomed ahead. The crew, aware of the potential hazards, would have been closely monitoring the weather, using their onboard radar and communicating with air traffic control to assess the situation. Despite the building storms, there was no immediate cause for alarm. Unbeknownst to the pilots and passengers of Flight 447, a seemingly minor malfunction was about to have catastrophic consequences. As the aircraft encountered the icy conditions within the thunderstorm, a phenomenon known as Pito tube icing occurred. The malfunctioning Pito tube set off a chain reaction of events that would quickly overwhelm the crew. With the autopilot disengaged and the airspeed readings unreliable, the crew of Flight 447 found themselves battling to control the aircraft amidst the turbulence of the thunderstorm. The pilots, faced with a barrage of alarms and warnings, struggled to make sense of the situation. Instead of following established procedures for dealing with a potential stall, the pilots reacted instinctively, pulling the aircraft's nose up. As the Airbus A330 climbed higher into the night sky, its angle of attack increased to dangerous levels. The aircraft, now in a stall, began to lose lift rapidly, its nose pointing towards the heavens. The pilots, still grappling with the confusing situation, and the unreliable instruments struggled to regain control. In the final moments of the flight, the aircraft plunged towards the ocean below, its descent rate exceeding 10,000 feet per minute. At 2 a.m., as Flight 447 cruised at 35,000 feet, the autopilot disengaged. Unbeknownst to the crew, ice crystals had begun to clog the Pito tubes, small sensors critical for measuring airspeed. As the ice built up, the instruments in the cockpit began to deliver erratic readings. The first sign of trouble came as a discrepancy between the captain's airspeed indicator and the first officer's. As the Pito tubes iced over further, the aircraft's flight control computers received increasingly conflicting airspeed data. Warnings began to flash across the cockpit displays, a symphony of alarms indicating contradictory information. Amidst the escalating chaos, the autopilot disengaged completely, handing control back to the pilots. The crew, now solely responsible for the aircraft's fate, had to decipher what was real and what was simply instrument error. With the autopilot offline, the task of maintaining control fell upon the pilots. The pilots, believing the aircraft was flying too slowly, made a fateful decision. They pulled back on the control stick, pitching the aircraft's nose upward. The Airbus A330, already on the verge of an aerodynamic stall due to its high angle of attack, was pushed further into a dangerous flight regime. The stall warning sounded again, this time continuously, a shrill reminder of the aircraft's precarious state. The situation in the cockpit grew increasingly desperate. The aircraft, now in a full stall, was losing altitude rapidly. The nose-high attitude caused by the pilot's control inputs prevented the aircraft from gaining speed and recovering from the stall. The Airbus, once a symbol of modern aviation technology, was now at the mercy of the elements, and the desperate struggle for control unfolding within its cockpit. The cockpit voice recorder captured the growing tension and urgency in the pilots' voices. They recognized the gravity of the situation but struggled to comprehend why the aircraft was not responding as expected. The instruments continued to display conflicting information, adding to the confusion and making it nearly impossible to diagnose the root cause of the problem. Despite their training and experience, the crew was trapped in a deadly spiral of errors and misinterpretations. The stall warning continued to blare, a constant reminder of the aircraft's perilous state, yet the pilots, still fixated on the erroneous airspeed readings, failed to recognize the true nature of the crisis. The aircraft, its fate hanging in the balance, continued its descent towards the unforgiving ocean below. As the minutes ticked by, the situation on board Flight 447 grew increasingly dire. The aircraft, locked in a deep stall, descended rapidly towards the Atlantic Ocean. The pilots, still grappling with the confusing instrument readings and the overwhelming nature of the emergency, struggled to regain control of the plummeting aircraft. Alarms continued to sound throughout the cockpit, a cacophony of warnings indicating the aircraft's perilous state. The stall warning, a constant presence throughout the ordeal, served as a chilling reminder of the impending disaster. Despite the crew's efforts, the Airbus A330 continued its inexorable descent, the ocean surface drawing closer with each passing second. The cockpit voice recorder captured the final moments of the flight, a haunting record of the crew's desperate struggle and the realization that their situation was hopeless. The pilots, their voices strained with exertion and the weight of the situation, continued to manipulate the controls, but their efforts proved futile. The aircraft, its fate sealed by a series of errors and unforeseen circumstances, was beyond saving. At 2:14 a.m., after a harrowing 12 minutes of struggle and confusion, Air France Flight 447 slammed into the Atlantic Ocean. The impact, occurring at a high rate of speed, would have been catastrophic, instantly killing all 228 souls on board. The once proud Airbus, now a mangled wreck scattered across the ocean floor, marked the tragic end of a flight that had begun with such promise. The crash, occurring in a remote area of the Atlantic, far from land or any potential witnesses, left no survivors and few clues as to the chain of events that led to the disaster. The wreckage, scattered over a wide area by the force of the impact and the ocean currents, would remain lost for nearly 2 years, hampering investigation efforts and deepening the mystery surrounding the crash. The final 12 minutes of Flight 447 stand as a testament to the unforgiving nature of aviation, where a series of seemingly minor events can cascade into unimaginable tragedy. The crash, a stark reminder of the delicate balance between man and machine, would spark a global investigation, prompting changes in pilot training, aircraft design, and safety protocols, all aimed at preventing a similar tragedy from ever happening again. The investigation into the crash of Air France Flight 447 stands as one of the most complex in aviation history. The search for the black boxes took nearly 2 years, hampered by the depth and remoteness of the crash site. When recovered, they revealed a chilling sequence of errors and misjudgments. The crash was caused by a chain of events, both technical and human. The icing of the Pito tubes led to system malfunctions and unreliable airspeed readings. The pilots struggled with alarms and conflicting information. They misdiagnosed the stall and lost control of the aircraft. The crash of Air France Flight 447 had a profound impact on the aviation industry, prompting a wave of changes and improvements aimed at preventing similar tragedies. The investigation's findings led to enhanced pilot training programs, focusing on stall recovery, upset recovery training, and crew resource management. Pilots were now trained to recognize and respond more effectively to unreliable airspeed indications, and to better manage complex emergencies in the cockpit. The tragedy also spurred technological advancements in aviation safety. Aircraft manufacturers redesigned Pito tubes to reduce the risk of icing and improved air data systems to provide more reliable airspeed information to pilots. New cockpit warning systems were implemented to provide clearer and more intuitive alerts to flight crews, reducing the risk of confusion and misinterpretation during emergencies. The legacy of Flight 447 extends beyond the technical aspects of aviation safety. The crash highlighted the need for greater transparency and communication within the aviation industry, as well as the importance of a strong safety culture that prioritizes the well-being of passengers and crew above all else. The lessons learned from this tragedy continue to shape the way we fly today, serving as a constant reminder of the importance of vigilance, preparedness, and a relentless pursuit of safety in the skies. The crash of Air France Flight 447 serves as a poignant reminder of the unforgiving nature of aviation and the fragility of life itself. The tragic loss of 228 souls left an enduring scar on the hearts of families, friends, and a global community united in grief. The disaster transcended borders and cultures, prompting a collective search for answers and a shared determination to prevent similar tragedies. The investigation revealed a complex interplay of technical failures, human error, and the unforgiving elements. The findings served as a catalyst for change, prompting safety improvements and a renewed focus on the human element in aviation. The legacy of Flight 447 lives on in enhanced training programs and heightened safety culture in the aviation industry today. The pursuit of aviation safety is an ongoing journey of learning, adaptation, and innovation. The tragedy of Air France Flight 447 underscored the progress in making flying safer. Developments like resilient Pito tubes and enhanced stall warning systems have made flying safer. Emphasis on crew resource management fosters effective communication and teamwork in the cockpit. The quest for aviation safety is never complete. The aviation industry must embrace continuous learning and adaptation to stay ahead of emerging threats. By honoring those lost on Flight 447, we reaffirm our commitment to making air travel as safe as possible. Thank you for watching Tech and Trek. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more explorations into the past, powered by the future.